Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine tiny fragments from dinosaur teeth, not just telling us about what they eat, but actually unlocking secrets about Earth's whole atmosphere millions of years ago. It sounds a bit like science fiction, right? But this is very real research, and honestly, it's pretty fascinating stuff. Today, we're doing a deep dive into this pivotal study. It's led by researchers from the Universities of Göttingen, Mainz, and Bochum, and it's published in PNAS, that's the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. What they've done, essentially, is use fossilized dinosaur tooth enamel to get at ancient climate data. It gives us this incredible shortcut, a way to understand Earth's deep past and its climate over the long haul. So if you've ever wondered what Earth was really like during the Mesozoic era, that's the famous age of dinosaurs, roughly 252 down to 66 million years ago. Well, beyond just picturing the giant creatures, this deep dive is definitely for you. We're going to explore how this completely new scientific method is giving us unprecedented insights. We're talking ancient CO2 levels, even global photosynthesis rates. So let's jump right into the big reveal, because it really changes how we think about these prehistoric giants. It turns out dinosaurs weren't just, huge animals wandering around. Their actual physiology, what they breathed in, what they incorporated into their bodies, has basically turned them into living, breathing recorders for the planet's atmosphere. And the main finding here is pretty staggering. These fossilized teeth show way higher levels of atmospheric carbon dioxide during the Mesozoic than we have today, much higher.
Yeah, that's right. And what's truly revolutionary about this study, I think, is that it gives us two major conclusions that really shift our perspective on paleoclimate. First, like you said, atmospheric CO2 was significantly higher, no doubt about that. But second, and this might be even more surprising, the global rate of photosynthesis. Basically, how much work plants were doing across the planet was running at about twice the rate we see today.
Twice the rate.
Double, yeah. It's not just a small change. It points to a biosphere that was incredibly productive, way more active. And the research team looked closely at teeth from key periods, specifically the late Jurassic and the late Cretaceous. So they got this really crucial broad window into these massive changes over time.
Okay, wow. Double the plant activity.
And if you connect those dots, this huge surge in plant life probably played a really central role in shaping the climate itself. That dynamic, often warmer climate we associate with the dinosaurs, you're looking at potentially a powerful feedback loop, right? More CO2 in the air helps plants grow more vigorously,
Right.
which then influences global temperatures, the air's composition, maybe even oxygen levels. It paints a picture of an Earth system that was just operating differently, maybe at a faster pace than we typically think about.
That is a truly profound idea. A planet that's much more sort of metabolically active. But the big question, and I bet a lot of you listening are wondering this too, is how? How on earth did they figure this out? It all comes down to tooth enamel, which seems so, well, ordinary almost, but incredibly tough. We're talking millions of years, and these little bits are holding on to vital climate information.
It's pretty ingenious, the method. They meticulously looked at the oxygen isotopes preserved inside that fossilized enamel. And tooth enamel is key here. It's just one of the hardest, most resilient biological materials we know of. It's incredibly durable.
Okay.
That toughness lets it survive geological time, basically, preserving these very subtle chemical signatures that would normally be long gone. And here's the clever part. Oxygen comes in slightly different forms, isotopes. They have the same number of protons but different neutrons, so they weigh slightly different amounts.
Right, like heavy and light oxygen.
Exactly. So when a dinosaur breathes air and drinks water, these isotopes get incorporated into the water in its body and then into its teeth as they grow. And crucially, the ratio of these different oxygen isotopes that gets locked into the enamel, it changes based on two main things. The CO2 levels in the atmosphere and how much photosynthesis is happening globally. Plants, for instance, tend to prefer the lighter oxygen isotopes when they do photosynthesis. So if you have loads of plant activity sucking up the light oxygen, the oxygen left in the atmosphere, and therefore the water the dinosaur drinks and the air it breathes becomes enriched in the heavier isotopes. That specific isotopic signature gets recorded right there in the tooth. It's like this tiny built-in air quality monitor from the past, directly reflecting the air and the whole ecosystem's activity when that dinosaur was alive.
That's amazing. A tiny time capsule.
It really is. And this marks a significant step forward, a milestone, really, for paleoclimatology. Because before this, a lot of our climate reconstructions relied on, well, more indirect evidence. Things like carbonates in ancient soils, or what we call marine proxies.
Marine proxies.
Yeah.
What are those exactly?
Their indicators from the ocean could be tiny marine fossils or chemical signatures in deep-sea mud, that sort of thing. They tell us about past conditions, mostly in the marine realm.
Yep.
And while they're valuable, absolutely, these older methods often had more uncertainty. And importantly, they gave us less of a direct look at what was happening on land, where the dinosaurs were actually living. The real breakthrough here, the novelty, is focusing specifically on land vertebrates. It gives us a much more direct ground-level view of the ancient terrestrial climate.
It's like switching from reading a secondhand report to finding someone's actual diary.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. So this incredibly direct window. When they actually looked at the teeth, what did they find? What were the numbers? What kind of CO2 levels are we talking about? Any surprises there?
The data points are pretty stark, yeah. They paint quite a picture. So back in the late Jurassic period, that's around 150 million years ago, their analysis showed the air had about 4 times as much carbon dioxide as it did just before industrialization.
4 times.
4 times the pre-industrial baseline. It's a vastly different atmosphere than ours. Then, fast forward to the late Cretaceous period, maybe around 73 to 66 million years ago, the CO2 level was still incredibly high, settling at about 3 times as high as today's levels.
4 times in the Jurassic, 3 times in the Cretaceous. Those are big numbers. For many people, that might immediately sound like, well, a disaster zone, an inhospitable planet. How did life, especially all that plant life you mentioned, manage to not just cope, but actually thrive in conditions that seem so extreme to us?
Well, that's exactly where that second major finding, the doubled photosynthesis rate, becomes so important. You have to picture a world that was incredibly lush, almost like a greenhouse Earth scenario, maybe. Vast forests, ferns, conifers, early flowering plants, all doing photosynthesis at this incredible accelerated rate.
So the high CO2 is actually fuel for them.
Exactly. It stimulated plant growth, creating this massively productive biosphere. It was just a very different Earth system setup. Higher CO2 levels went hand in hand with higher average temperatures generally, which also helped facilitate this huge plant productivity. It really tells us that Earth's biological systems are, well, remarkably adaptable. They can function and even thrive under atmospheric conditions that are radically different from what we're used to today.
That's a profound thought, a planet just buzzing with activity.
Yeah.
And they weren't just grabbing any old fossil teeth, right?
Yeah.
This research must have needed specific examples. You mentioned teeth from North America, Africa, Europe, like Camersaurus from the Morrison Formation in the U.S., and Europasaurus from Germany. They gave that broad baseline, I guess.
That's right. Those provided this sort of long-term average picture across those broad periods.
But then you also mentioned something specific about individual teeth. From T-Rex and Catodocus siberi. That's a relative of Diplodocus, right?
Correct.
And these specific teeth had a strikingly unusual composition of oxygen isotopes. That sounds like it's pointing to something different.
It absolutely is. That's a critical distinction they made in the study. While teeth like Camersaurus gave the average background levels, these particular T-Rex and Catodocus teeth showed something else. They revealed these isolated, really extreme spikes or deviations in their oxygen isotope ratios within a single tooth's record.
So not the long-term average, but like the sudden event.
Exactly. This unusual composition strongly suggests rapid, intense CO2 spikes. Think of them as snapshots of sudden, dramatic atmospheric events, not the baseline climate. And what's really compelling is that scientists can potentially link these kinds of sharp spikes to major geological events, things like massive volcanic eruptions.
Like the Deccan Traps.
Precisely. The Deccan Traps in India, this enormous volcanic province that was incredibly active right at the end of the Cretaceous. Events like that would have just pumped huge, almost instantaneous amounts of CO2 into the atmosphere. And it looks like these dinosaur teeth actually recorded those moments.
Incredible.
So yeah, these individual teeth didn't just tell us about the general climate. They seem to have pinpointed specific, maybe even catastrophic atmospheric changes.
This is truly amazing science. We've pulled out these incredible details about ancient Earth straight from dinosaur teeth. But okay, beyond the wow factor of the science itself, what does it all mean? What are the implications for us, for our understanding of Earth's climate today? Why is a 150 million year old CO2 reading so important now?
Well, it's not just about adding another data point. This method and the results, they force us to reevaluate some of our existing paleoclimate models and maybe some assumptions. It really opens up a whole new way to use fossils like tooth enamel to investigate the early Earth's atmosphere and plant productivity much more directly. Getting this level of direct terrestrial data is so important for understanding long-term climate dynamics. Marine proxies are great, but they couldn't give us this specific ground-level view. For example, seeing Earth operate even thrive, with 4 times the CO2 and double the photosynthesis. It challenges our ideas about the planet's natural limits, perhaps, and about how life adapted to and maybe even helped shape those very different conditions.
It adds a whole new layer to the climate story.
It does. The lead author, Dr. Dingsu Feng from Göttingen, summed it up really powerfully. He said something like, "Dinosaurs could be the new climate scientists. Long ago, their teeth recorded the climate for over 150 million years. Finally, we're getting the message." It's just a remarkable connection across the ages. It gives us real ground truth about ancient Earth, which helps us build better, more robust climate models looking forward.
What a thought. These ancient animals, just through their biology, holding on to this message for millions of years until we could finally figure out how to read it, it really makes you think about the resilience of Earth's systems. So this deep dive into dinosaur teeth, it really revolutionizes how we see ancient Earth, doesn't it? It gives us direct insights into the climate on land, into past CO2, even global plant activity. And it leaves me thinking, if Earth's systems could adapt and support such incredibly vibrant life under such vastly different atmospheric conditions back then, with CO2 levels way higher than today, what does that tell us about the fundamental resilience of our planet's carbon cycle? And maybe what long-term, perhaps unexpected impacts might our current atmospheric changes ultimately have on life when you consider just how profoundly things like CO2 and global photosynthesis shape the entire age of dinosaurs? Something to ponder.